Right. Well, I'm Helen Chalmers, stroke Herbert.
That's a good idea.
And I was 2 years into when St George started at Scarborough Park. I was on the committee, I think, in the 60s, when it was very, very small. And I was on the committee right through until 80, something like that. So, and also on like the selection committee, and I was a coach for the original number 2 state team, not state team, state league,
Which was in the district.
which we then, the second year we brought them up to the grand final, going down very nicely to Manly. And then I was the coach of the state, the St George team that played in the state championships from 82 to 84, and then from 85 to 87, I think, something like that. Other than that, I was umpires convener for many years, not sure just how many, and on selection committee for about 16, 17 years. And I umpired in St George, and after, I was naturally played in St George as well. But I umpired in St George till I was about 62, 64, something like that. So I was doing the state league teams and everything. And then that is just about the history that I've got there. But I was very involved for many years. It would be hard for me to give any advice, particularly to players and coaches, because of the changes, of the way we live, the things that are involved, how many teams we now have outside of the association itself. Yep. Even though they represent them, there's still a lot of the teams that aren't in playing down in West Botany Street or whatever.
Yeah.
But all I can say is enjoy whatever you're doing, enjoy it, because if you're not enjoying it, it's not worthwhile to anybody, to your coaches, to your fellow players, anything like that, Coaches is pretty much the same thing. The coaching is different now. Players are probably a lot more forthright than what our players were when you're living in a different era in lots of ways.
Yeah.
So I think the strength is going to be in, as a coach, dedicating yourself to it, and trying to involve yourself with your players, what their lifestyle is, what their problems might be, things like that. And I think another thing is being able to take criticism, like you're going to be criticised. Not everybody's going to like what you do or the way you do it or, how long you've been doing it, anything like that. But if you can take the criticism, then you can sort of put everything back into the team.
No, so to reiterate what you said, they've got to be having fun doing it.
Oh,
because otherwise there's no point.
No, it's no point.
There's no point.
It's a waste of time. It's wasted your life, really. You're not having fun. I mean, I don't say take it lightly, but enjoy it. And there's plenty of things that you can enjoy.
Yeah. It's good. Okay. I'm Marilyn Lelouch. I'm OAM, actually. I don't use that very often. And I was at St George after Helen. Got involved because of my daughter. She was 11, wasn't allowed to play rugby union, so decided netball she'd better play. Got involved, and then you end up that you start managing, and then you start coaching, and finally end up on executive for 13 years. 2 years as secretary, and then 13, I think. No, whatever. As president, but thoroughly enjoyed the friendships we made. The working together as a team, because we always did do that, and I think that was important. And it was fun for the majority of the time. Bye. So so like I say, you get involved in everything, and you get from 7 in the morning until 5 at night, sort of, and you go home tired out of your brain. You've umpired a couple of games. I can remember once nearly falling over the garbage tin because I was concentrating so hard on blowing the whistle and nearly fell over the garbage tin. But it's just enjoyment, and it's what you can get from being really involved in it at whatever level. I just think team sport has something that probably individual sports don't have, in that you learn a new skill. You learn a skill that you're caring for one another, not just yourself. And I think that's a great skill to learn, a life skill. So, it's just fun, and the memories are unbelievable. When Helen was talking about coaching, I remember I was fortunate enough to manage the Australian team for 12 years, but one of the best coaches I ever worked with was Joyce Brown, who was not only in the Australian Hall of Fame, she's a legend in the Hall of Fame, and she deserves to be. She was an Australian player, an Australian captain, and then she was an Australian coach. But her philosophy was, talking about knowing the players, she would never start coaching any team until she'd had a one-on-one with every one of those girls and knew what their expectations were, whether they really couldn't stand somebody yelling at them, but so that they knew the player before they started. And that to me she seemed to have that whole everything covered, didn't she? Every skill.
Unbelievable.
But that was her, and the unity of the team to her was important. She wouldn't even bring in a dietitian unless she felt they were going to fit with the mix of the team. I learned a lot from her, a hell of a lot from her. It's one of those sports that it can give you heaps. And like I say, the friendships and the memories that are still there are unbelievable. And I'm very proud to have come from St George. Yes. And I'm very proud to be the patron down there, even though people probably haven't got a clue who I am, and that's okay, to know where it's come from. But that it's come from Scarborough Park, where all we had were card tables. Yep. And when we got tents, we thought, we really made it. And then when we got, the first building, and then we got the kiosk, and then we got the beautiful building that's there now. This is where St George has come from over not such a long time.
Hey, I haven't been around as long as these two ladies.
You're not as old.
Thank you, Helen. That's all we needed.
I wasn't fortunate enough to play it and get that experience.
Oh, lucky you.
I started off at St George when St George moved to West Botany Street. Right. Until late in my lifetime, I'd only ever played individual sports. I'd never had much to do with a team sport. Well, you're right. Yeah, so I sort of there, and the world of tents. I started off, I just came down with some friends to play in a team and be fit. And within 2 years, my daughter decided it didn't look like a bad sport after all. Yeah. Okay. So we put her in a 9-year-old team at Rockdale. Pat Parker recognised the fact that I was on committees anywhere I went, so suddenly I was already on the executive. So that's sort of where I started getting involved there, and then a position became available on the executive, so I stood for that and got there. And I started off what they called a secretary in those days. I don't know what I did next. Somewhere I was a junior competition coordinator, which I really had looked forward to being for a long time, and so as soon as they stood down, I grabbed that spot. Yeah. But within a year I was conned into being the umpires convener.
Who would have done that?
I wonder.
Pat Jones. Then I think I was night comp convener for a few years when night comp came in.
Yes, you were.
Yeah. But and then I sort of, because I was so into numbers and figures and collating, I sort of got onto the Netball New South Wales Carnival Committee. That became an events committee. That came into something else committee.
Grading fixtures and
all sorts of things.
25 odd years. So
yes.
Basically from 1992 until 2019, I was on every international game that was held in Sydney on the school. But that's your main thing, is while you're here, make friends and keep them for life, really. A good friend is a true friend.
Yes. But it's
Right.
but it's a great sport. Like I said before, I've still got those girls, you know, who I coached when they were 21 and they're now in their 50s come and have lunch here. Because I can remember back when I was managing the Australian team and there was no money involved. And we, in fact,
did you think?
Originally, if you got selected in the Australian team, your state actually paid for your uniform.
Okay.
And in 91, I happened to then, I said to the CEO, do you mind if I go out and try and get a sponsorship for clothing? And I got Kia for tracksuits, I got Adam Bennett for suits, I got Carrera for sunglasses? Yeah,
Sunglasses.
Yes. Shoes, handbags, the lot. Simply by taking a photograph of the girls and saying, do you want your gear on these people? So back then there was no money. And I can remember saying to Liz Tavner, who's from Victoria, the first year she got in and I'd handed out all their uniforms and I said, does your stuff fit? You know, you're right. And she said, it's green and gold, Maz, I wouldn't care. And I think they certainly train harder now because they don't have to work anymore. So there's more training, so I think it's faster than it used to be.
Yeah.
And it was faster.
And rougher.
Yes, I think it is rougher.
Right,
I
much
think
more
because
physical.
they've said they don't want as much, the television don't want as much whistle. So I think that's altered the game. They've been good years.
Yeah, they have been. Yeah.
I'm
They
glad
were
I've
very
been
good.
involved in netball.
Yeah. And I mean, even as players, we had lots of funny experiences.
Oh, yes.